Sunday evening, coming to you from Los Angeles, California. And wow, we had a beautiful, beautiful time last Sunday night. These are kind of like living room talks where we're talking to people that I really, really respect about what's going on in the world today and conversations that can bring change. I was looking up the word impact. The word impact is a very, very powerful word. It means to influence, to affect, means to energize. You can motivate, you can move somebody just by conversations. In fact, there's three major ways that people learn. Number one is through education. Number two is from conversation. Number three is observation. Conversations have helped change my life. Many times people say, how did you get so advanced, like when you were in your 20s and your 30s, about learning about life? And a lot of it was great conversations with people who helped change me and shape me. So I was thinking about that just yesterday. I wrote down a few guys. Vidal Sassoon, to talk to Vidal on Cannon Drive and eat breakfasts with Vidal Sassoon, just talking about life in England and what he loved to do and how he became Vidal Sassoon. I think about talks with Lee Iacocca, who embraced me as a young man and said, you teach me about spirituality and I'll teach you about business. I'm going to tell you something, that was a fair trade-off. I think about all my talks I continue to have with Quincy Jones. Quincy just talking to me about music going back to the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and just all things Quincy Jones. So these are kind of living room talks with people that are making huge impact in their world. So tonight's guests, I'm just going to go through them, are friends of mine, but there are people that are doing things at a very, very high level. Gloria Mayfield Banks is best known as a self-help author. Her book, Quantum Leaps, that was released in 2015, has literally changed so many lives. She is a speaker. She is a mother. She is an entrepreneur. She is number one at Mary Kay Cosmetics. And that says a lot because they have millions of people. And then tonight with me, I have Elena Cardone. And so much respect for her. She is my friend. She has a great book that I read that I really, really enjoyed. And it's called Build an Empire. And she talks about how to have it all and how it's possible to have it all. So Elena will be talking today. She just did 10X Ladies, in which Gloria Banks was a part of it. And we're going to talk a little bit about having it all, being a woman of influence. A little later in the program, I'll have on Ricki Lake. What a trailblazer. Wow, what Ricki Lake has done in the space of talk. Wow, wow, wow. She's also a producer, and she's done some really great documentaries. And then we're going to talk to her about what's been happening with her lately, which is an awful lot. And then also we'll have Scott Budnick, also a friend of mine. And Scott Budnick is a world shaker, man. He obviously is known as a producer who has done so well in the whole entertainment world with this whole series, The Hangover. He also just did a movie called Just Mercy that did very well with Jamie Foxx, but he's also known for what he's doing in prison reform. So with me to start, and then we're going to be quickly entered in by Elena Cardone, is my good friend, Gloria. How are you doing today?
I'm so excited, Tim. This is exciting. This is so exciting to be on here with you live like this. What a great idea.
It's an idea that was birthed in just watching a lot of television and at times not being motivated by what was being said right now.
Yeah.
And then, Gloria, I was having a lot of dialogue with people that I respect and you would respect. And they were like good living room talks. And I thought, why don't we take those same living room talks and take them out to a lot of people?
Right.
So what's kind of cool is that we had over 200,000 views just from last Sunday alone.
Wow.
And it's growing rapidly. And so those that are watching our living room talks and banter, just share because you care, because we need to have conversations, Gloria. Right now, we need to have conversations.
You know, Tim, we have to have so many significant conversations that really pierce people's heart, because there's so much that's coming at us so fast and so furious, that I love this idea of just real talk, just really having a conversation, not having to go to the TV and get delivered the things that you might not want to feed into your mind. For you to send this out to everyone, to have conversations that affect change, is really, really necessary.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to talk to you tonight. You're one of my friends that I tell other friends about. Like watching right now is my friend Diane Hudson, who was executive producer of the Oprah show forever.
Yes.
And I'm always telling Diane, I said, and she's going to want to really know you after tonight. I said, "Ooh, you got to know her. She's stylish and she's smart and she gets things done."
Thank you.
And so, Gloria, when you look at what's taking place right now, obviously it's not something that any of us would have ordered from Life's Diner.
Right.
It just hit. When did you realize it was a crisis? When did you realize it was a crisis?
Well, I will tell you, I realized early on, because my persona is one of to pay attention and to put two things in front of me. If it's not good, this is what I'm going to do. And if it's okay, I can always bounce back to okay. But
Yes.
I stay on the forefront of, this doesn't look great. I had a niece that was in Italy. And so she was ahead of the times and she was telling me what was going on. So I could see that things were happening. And I could see as a leader, when people start asking me a lot of questions, you immediately sense that something's happened and leadership is required. So I felt in this crisis, I needed to be centered and looked for ways to help people navigate this.
I love it. Did you see this amazing face that just came on our screen?
I see my friend. Hi, Elena. That's awesome.
I'm so happy to be here, guys.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
What I love is that we're all friends. We're
Yes.
all friends. And so, Elena, I gave you the proper introduction.
He
You're
did.
just a world shaker. Elena is just getting things done. And I'm so proud of her because, you know, she comes from a regular background, a woman with a dream, and now she's inspiring millions of people, boy, millions of people. And just very, very proud of her. Gloria, tell everybody how great her conference was. 10X.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just say this. The 10X Ladies first conference was huge, impactful, exciting, energizing, fun. And you were around like-minded women who want to do something. You know, I heard something the other day that said, when I was watching the Clark Sisters movie, and he said, you know, ambition doesn't look good on you. And I was like, oh my gosh, you should have seen the women that were at 10X. Everybody was ambitious and okay with it. So I can't even imagine, Elena, I hate for the pressure to be on you, but I can't imagine what next year is going to be like, because this year was phenomenal. It was so phenomenal.
Well, it's going to be good. I'll tell you why, because you are a good luck charm. So I know that because you helped launch the first one, the rest is downhill from here.
Elena, what was your inspiration on wanting to do the 10X for women? Because obviously, you know, with you and Grant doing the massive 10X conferences, I mean, all the way to what you did in Miami with close to 40,000 people that came, and then the ones in Las Vegas just packed out, people standing room only. What made you want to do it for women?
The reason I do 10X Ladies is because I believe there are a certain amount of women that would not find Grant because of how Grant's nature is. Like, you know, if those particular type women are anything like I was, I did not get Grant for 13 months. Like he just was, like I just was not going to gravitate toward Grant. However, not only am I Grant's wife, but I also am his biggest fan, and I believe in his content, and I know that it can turn people's lives around because I've witnessed for what it has done to myself, but also to millions of people from around the world. So my purpose for 10X Ladies is to expose them to, you know, of course, first and foremost, the content that I deliver and bring to the table, but then it is to bring them into the umbrella of and open that opportunity for them to have all things Cardone, whether it's Cardone universities, or it gives women an opportunity to partner up in Cardone Ventures or Cardone Media or Cardone Capital. So I really did that where the women of the world wouldn't be unexposed to grant, which could be a detriment to them, I believe. So that if I make it more palatable for them and open up the door into the whole Cardone enterprises, that's why I did Cardone. That's why I did 10X Ladies. It's really to just open up to another area that I don't feel Grant can tap into easily.
I love it. So,
Not just like all women are like that, just that particular type of woman.
mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay, so one of the ways I do this format, ladies, is that I get a lot of emails that come in and people ask questions that they want to ask the different guests. Okay, so I'm going to start with Gloria and then go to Elena.
All right.
That in this time of challenge, some people are passive, some people are proactive. Why is it so important to be proactive and not just passive?
Okay, let me say this because I want everyone to know how passionate I am that when we have a start that's going to happen after the stop, that they're prepared, that they're not living in regret, and that they use this time wisely. There is going to be a start after this stop, and they are going to reflect upon what they've done during this time, and it's making us reflect what we've done for our lives. So that's why I'm so passionate about women becoming their best self. That's why I do this course called Create Your Queendom, because I want people to get prepared right now. It is a sad time, but there's joy all around us. So we're seeing things much differently than we've seen before. Ken and I are sitting in our house. I'm like, wow, I've never sat quietly like this in this spot for 35 minutes and seen how beautiful something is in front of me. So I really think that during this time, we are all going to regret if we don't use this time very wisely.
Love it. Elena, tell us why it's important not to be passive, but to be proactive. I'm watching you guys online.
Yeah.
You're being proactive. Why is that important, Elena?
For a lot of what Gloria is talking about, you know, people don't, I don't know. I mean, I think people do realize what is ahead of us, and it is no joke, and it's going to be extremely painful for a lot of people. And that is not to breed negativity, but if you are prepared for it and you can expect what you can expect, you can utilize this time now to educate yourself, to self-enhance, to read books, to write books, to work out, to drink your water, to get your discipline so in right now so that when the doors open, that you've got your discipline in. Instead of making the 4 phone calls that you used to make, now you got to go out and make 20. You know, when you used to not want to go call someone because it didn't feel good, now you have to do it no matter what it feels like, because, you know, your family needs food in their mouths, you know? So now is the time to develop the muscle inside of you that's ready to grit and dig deep and use your imagination to, well, get real and honest. Do I need to switch careers right now? Do I need to do something else? How can I be creative? How can I think outside of the box? You need to be clear-headed, not be using this time just watching endless Netflix and drinking wine. Like, I'm using this time right now to get so extremely focused on the vision that I have for myself in the future. And a vision requires imagination and wisdom to predict the future and come back into the present and say, well, how do I want to be on the other side of this? Do I want to be more courageous? Do I want to have more integrity? Do I want to have more leadership skills? Yes. If the answer is yes to all that, okay, well then backtrack. What do I have to do right now that's going to make me strong enough in my future self to not only pull myself up, but to be ready to lead and to be so steadfast on my vision, despite what the world looks like going on around me? Because my vision right now is I'm going to make everything that I've ever done done look like child's play, because this kind of stuff fuels me.
Wow.
And I want to be that leader. I want to be that beacon of hope. I want to be that person that's going to defy all the odds and do it anyway, and despite all the haters. And I'm not letting go of my vision. And so, you know, to me, I've been prepared for this moment. Even though I've prepared for this moment, I'm still not ready for this moment. I just know one thing is for sure. Since 2008, I'm in a better, stronger place now to be able to get through it. And it's an opportunity for other people, especially women, to rise up to the occasion and be their most powerful selves. You know, I said this before, the world is experiencing a sickness. And who do you want when you're sick? You want your mother. And women have an innate nurturing ability. And right now we can be that face of calmness and security and leadership and strength for the world to heal itself. So I'm all for just women really taking the responsibility to be leaders right now.
Gloria, I want you to piggyback on this because I'm loving what Elena said. Number one, she said it's no joke.
Right.
And number two, she's talking about really not waiting, but creating.
Right.
And so tell us about number one, Gloria, how it's no joke, because you understand pain, you know, your background in Detroit, you know, your parents, you know, requiring you to go to college.
Right.
You went through a lot of things, dyslexia.
Right. Yeah.
Talk about what Elena said. It's no joke, number one. And number two, we can't sit around. We got to make something happen.
You know, I got to tell people that, especially the people that are going to be listening to this, we have a responsibility. When you acknowledge what's around you and you know that you have an ambitious desire to be your best self, when you know that, you are in this place because you like to make a difference. And so when I say no joke, we have no clue what's coming. I mean, I don't believe that anybody knows what's coming yet. And so I want to say to people that I feel a responsibility to myself. I feel a responsibility to the community. I keep telling people, this is not about the neighborhood. This is not about your city. This is not about your state. This is not about our country. This is about the world. Wow. This is a true example of we are our brother's keeper. And so we are all going to have to be up much bigger, much broader, much more passionate about digging deep to explode because of our responsibility, because this is no joke. And she's right. This is not to be upset about it, to be discouraged about it. This is something to fuel you to find out who you really are. When I was going through a domestic violence situation, the situation made me find out who I was. People are going to find out they are much stronger than they've ever imagined. And we've all been there because our wisdom shows us over and over and over again that in the darkest moment, it is right before the light. So we don't have any idea what's coming to us, but we do know that it's big. And we do know that if you are in tune with listening and being part of this conversation, you have a responsibility. And we're going to have to all call each other up to be their best self.
Okay, I'm loving this idea of responsibility. And Gloria, I did not take that lightly when you talked about domestic violence and what happened to you. Yes. Because I know your story and seen you in other interviews. I know that was a very serious thing in your life. And I think even with Elena, you know, people see you guys as these leaders of leaders and traveling around the world. They don't understand that, like, Elena is also a wife. She's a mother of two amazing kids. She's got a lot going on at one time. Elena, piggyback off what Gloria was saying, how did that kind of stir you up about, man, whether we like it or not, we're the leaders. We got to lead.
Well, it's the truth. You know, when you know, there wasn't always a time that I could be even a leader to myself.
Yeah.
You know, I had to, you know, I had to clean myself up a bit, you know, but finally you reach a certain point. And, you know, in 2008, when 2008 happened, Grant and I had to get real greedy. You know, we were on the verge of losing everything. We were poor, rich people at that time. You know, because poor rich people are under the illusion that you think everything's okay until one thing happens, like an economic collapse, Could be anything. It could be a death, a sickness in the family, someone loses the job, anything that can rattle you. And that's what happened to us. So we had to get real greedy at that time in 2008. We could no longer give to our charity. All spending stopped. We did not hang out with any friends, no dinners, no clubs, nothing. There was no social media back then, so people don't see that. We were able to have and hang on to our nice house up in the hills, but not much else. And we really had to just focus on us and build what we finally built up to. And we finally did reach a point of, you know, financial freedom, if you want to call it that, even though everyone's going to get hurt right now. But once you reach a certain level of success, Grant and I made a vow to each other in 2008 that if we were ever to figure this out, we would never close the curtains. We would remain transparent to help all the other little me's. You know, it's always taught, I was always like under the assumption that it was, I'm just like just a little person. I was never wealthy. I never grew up that way. I've always felt uncomfortable around wealthy people. It's just like, I'm just like kind of a down home girl. I like my New Orleans food, you know, I'm comfortable in that area, in that arena. But we made a vow that if we ever made it out, that we would take that responsibility and expose it to the world so that anyone else could either learn from our mistakes or learn from what we did to help fast track their way to success. So when you finally do reach a level of what you perceive is success or backed with stats, that whether you like me or you don't like me, or you don't like the way I look or the sound of my voice or whatever, you want to criticize my religion, whatever you want to do, you can't take away my stats. And so when you do get to that point, the next level is helping others and taking responsibility. And so I do like it. It's not always easy because I always have to be accountable. Everyone's looking at me, especially the haters right now. They want to see me fail. They can't wait. I guarantee you, people want to see Grant and I get divorced right now. They want to see us lose everything right now. But I'm going to tell you something. You know, you can take all of my money away from me, but you know what I'm going to give myself right now? I'm going to give myself more courage, more strength, more integrity, more grit, more determination, more willingness to help more people. And guess what? You can take all my money. You will never be able to take away that. That is my spirit. No virus is going to kill me. You can kill my body. Guess what? You are not taking me away from me. I get to have me for the rest of eternity in heaven or in another lifetime, whatever anyone believes. No one can take me away. So in this time, during these times, I will get to have more of me because I'm responsible and making myself live up to my potential.
That is so powerful. Gloria, does that fire us up or what?
Oh my, when I tell you, you get off this and you're like, yes, because okay, this is called unapologetically powerful. This is called, I want to surround myself with people who think like this, who talk like this, who know like this. Everybody who's reached a certain position, Elena, you know, we've been down before we go up again. We've been down before we go up again. No one stays down all the time, and no one stays up all the time. It's that the fight is always there. The acknowledgement that abundance is yours. It really is yours if you reach up. You have not because you ask not. That's my new slogan right now. My new slogan right now is you have not because you ask not. And everything you do, everything right now, we are paying attention to every piece of cardboard that comes into our environment, you guys. We have the ability far greater than we've ever used before. So right now, us taking charge, taking leadership, being bold. And I loved what she said. I loved what she said when she said, when you get to a place, the haters will come out and they will try to attack your thought. They'll try to attack your heart. They'll try to attack your emotions. They'll try to attack my cell phone when it goes in and out. When my Wi-Fi acts crazy, you know, they're going to try and attack but I am so good at, what are you thinking right now, Gloria?
Oh,
What are
yeah.
you thinking right now? What do you think? And how do you shift it? How do you shift it? Sometimes I put on gospel music, shifts me right away. Sometimes I put on R&B, shifts me right away. But I find a way to shift myself because I'm responsible for every single second.
Gloria, you talked about the fight. Elena talked about the fight. You could have the sight of a great life, but you have to fight. And Elena, let's go back to early Elena when you were a kid. You had to fight through things in life, right?
Yes.
Mentality, mindset, family. Tell us about working through and becoming a fighter.
Well, I really did have a good childhood. Like, I mean, my parents, I had a loving, environment. My parents were not alcoholics. They weren't drug addicts. They didn't beat us. So it wasn't until I was 13 and my best friend across the street from me perished in a fire, and I witnessed that whole thing. And from that, I used that experience and that death of her and her mother and what I went through at that age of 13 and not having the maturity level that obviously I have now at 13, but I used that as an excuse to go down the road of self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. And in order to come out of that world, I needed to just kind of move to Los Angeles at 17, knowing no one. I knew I had to get out of New Orleans or I was going to end up like the rest of my friends, which was not good. By the time I left at 17, I had 8 other friends die. When you hang out in that world, it's like suicides or a car accident or one fell off of a balcony, like just weird, crazy accidents happen in that world that is so, messed up. So, I mean, I've always had to just depend on myself to get myself where I wanted to be. And it wasn't until I was 17 and I made the decision. I had a dream one night. Goldie was her name, came to me in this dream and she was like, "What are you doing? How dare you use my death as an excuse? Don't you know all I would ever want for you is to be happy, and you live and you're miserable." And so that kind of was a wake-up call to me. And so that's when I was like, you know what? If I want anything in life, no one's going to give it to me. I don't just deserve it. If you want something, Elena, you've got to go out there and fight for it. And you have to make it happen, because I have never been this lucky, blessed one. It has never happened to me like that. I feel like I have to fight for everything every single time. I've never been blessed at anything. I've never been overly talented. I've never been overly athletic. Like some people are just blessed with certain things. I have not ever had that. I have to work and prove myself for every single thing. I'm still waiting. Is there one thing I'll just magically be gifted and genius at?
It's amazing, Gloria, when she says that, we see her as so gifted.
Yes.
I mean, the woman even danced with fire all over the place in Las Vegas.
You know
I was
what?
like,
Oh,
thank God she didn't catch on fire.
Yeah, you see things in other people. That's why I think that's what makes us good fighters, is because we're humble enough to know that there are gifts that we see in other people. I remember the time when people used to say, "Gloria, you're so charismatic." I'm like, "No." "Gloria, you're so motivational." I was like, "No." Gloria, and finally, I was walking in my driveway and I had this vision, Elena, and God lifted up my head and he poured charisma inside of me. And he shut it and he said, "That's your gift." I gave other people other gifts. So he gives us all different kind of gifts. But I remember the time when I was like, what in the world? But I just want everybody to know that we all have some gifts and we all fight to make our gifts better. And that's what makes us ambitious. I always am looking constantly putting people in my space that want more. I want women, I want men who want more, because if you want more, you want to give more. Period. End of conversation. No one just wants more to hoard more. Those are the wrong kind of people to have in your space. But everybody who wants more influence to give influence, more money to give money, more joy to give joy, more laughter to give joy, more coaching to give coaching.
Beautiful.
We have more to give more.
Okay, you just led us right into the next question. So Many people ask, and this is for Elena, and then I'll go to Gloria on this, is it how important are the right partners in your life? And you could be the right person with the right plan, but the right partners connected to the right people. Elena, why is partnership so important? And before you answer, I just want to say, I love seeing Elena and Grant together.
Me too. Me too.
Man, Elena is such a great wife. She's just encouraging him nonstop.
Yes.
And I see a Grant side of him that other people don't see. He's serving her, taking care of the kids. They got a really cool partnership. But Elena, tell us why partnership is so important.
Okay, so you're talking relationship part.
Yes.
Okay, well, the whole purpose for Grant and I as a partnership, which I did not realize this when I married him. There was no handbook or rule book when we married. At first I thought, okay, well, obviously we're going to be monogamous and we're just supposed to be best friends. I didn't realize that a partnership is supposed to be where each partner brings 100% of themselves. Now, we don't do 50-50. We do 100-100, which catapults us into another stratosphere. We bring 100% of ourselves to the other one. We have our couples goals so in aligned of who we want to be and where we want to go and what we want to achieve as a couple that we're fueling that so that we mutually, I'm interested in the partnership of where I can reach the heightened success up to here. That's all I could do on my own. Grant, whether it's he gives me the challenges or the ideas or whatever, will help me to get myself up to heightened success. And I do that for Grant. I help Grant reach heightened success, and I take credit for his heightened success. I say all the time, I know I married a baller. I know he was successful before me. There is no doubt he would have been successful with or without me, no doubt. But his heightened success, that's mine. And that's what I'm interested in for partnerships. If people really got together with a partner that not only that of course they're in love with, that they trust, but mutually are together with the agreement that we're going to help each other hit heightened success with each other. And there is a power and a strength in numbers.
Gloria, I love that she took credit.
Heightened.
He would have only gone so high
Heightened.
if it wasn't for me.
Success. Heightened success is mine.
I agree.
Success is mine.
I agree. I watch it firsthand. And Grant is going to watch this, and I think he agrees. Gloria, tell us about the power partnership, Gloria.
You know what? I've seen Grant give Elena the due that she deserves. And we all like it. We all like it. I promise you, I heard this long time ago. The person you choose to be with is probably the most important decision that you've made. And I know that I am so blessed by a husband who gives me the oxygen to be 100% myself. I always tell people it takes a strong man to lift a powerful woman. And he's an amazing entrepreneur in his own right, but he gives me the best gift ever, which is allows me just to be 100% me. And I always tell people, you have to teach people how to treat you. And so if people are going to respect you, if people are going to give you the air to be the person that you are, that partnership is a life choice. I made the wrong choice once, and it has been a very expensive wrong choice. And I don't mean just in dollars, I mean in heart, I mean in emotions. On the other hand, the wisdom that came from making a poor choice prepared me for making the right choice. It made me stand up and understand why that choice was so important to me. And now, because the right choice was made, there is no yick and yak, this and that, insecurities, fighting to prove. It is a partnership that you go, I go, you go, I go. And people look at us like, really, you guys? And yes, because when you let that person be 100% who they are meant to be, they are better for you, they're better for the family, and they're better for the long term. This relationship that we've had for over 30 years is one where we still can sit down and laugh like this. I mean, honest laughter, because it's pure and it's acceptable, and there's no expectation for anybody's perfect.
Okay, last question. Talking to Gloria Mayfield Banks and Elena Cardone. And isn't this fun, guys? We're having fun,
Yes,
right?
what a great idea.
And then next we got Ricki Lake. Man, you guys got to watch Ricki. Ricki's
Yes.
doing some amazing things.
I can't wait.
I mean, she trailblazed. And then wait till you see what Scott Budnick's doing with prison reform. You guys will love this.
Big time.
So take each lady, if you could, take 3-4 minutes, and I'll start with Elena. Tell us anything you want to tell us. Elena, how do we get through the crisis? How to rise back up? Really, what's on the forefront of your mind? You're a thinker. Help us out. What do you want to tell us?
Okay. Well, today is Easter. I want to read you the definition of resurrection.
Yes.
I looked up the definition of resurrection that I like. There's more than one, but this one says the revitalization or revival of something.
Wow.
And the derivation comes from late Latin. It means rise again. I thought that was so extremely powerful.
That's
Right.
powerful.
Resurrection is our opportunity to rise again. So then that brings me to my next definition, which is the word power. The word power, the definition means the capacity or the ability to influence the behavior of others. The capacity or the ability to influence the behavior of others. It does not say anything about how much money you have.
Right.
Does not say anything that you need to run a corporation. It says the ability to influence others. So right now, if you are home and you feel like your rights have been taken away, or you don't feel control over anything, I ask you to just look at, can you be power in your house? Do you have the ability to make your own child smile? Then you have power. Do you have the ability to calm your partner if they are stressed out and have them make a decision that's going to change the course of the path that they're on? That is power. Do you have the ability to be a stabilizing force for your parents if they stress? Can you change the influence of others? And how do you do that? Be aware that you can do that. That is what power is. Search for the power in yourself. How can you influence the behavior of others? How do you want to make a difference in this world? What is your sphere of influence? And get a vision. A vision is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination and wisdom. So in these times, don't wait for a vision. You create your vision. Go out into the future, make up all your possible scenarios. Even if you don't have it all figured out, at the very least, decide who you want to be on the other side of this. Come back to the present time life and make your to-do list of what you have to do to become that person. What is it? And it doesn't have to be big. Give yourself little wins that you can do consistently and persistency over a long period of time to give you confidence in yourself that when you do something, you do it. What you say you're going to do, you do. And that builds confidence. If it's you're going to wake up every morning at 5:30 in the morning to beat the sun up, if you're going to put yourself to bed at 9:30, there's a lot of things you can control right now. You can build up your immune system. You can drink your water, take your vitamins. You can be kind to your family. You can educate yourself. There's so much you can do right now. Nothing is being taken away from you because you are powerful. You have the ability and the capacity to influence the behavior of others. So be great. Don't get caught up in all the nonsense. No virus is going to kill you ever.
Gloria,
Yes.
how powerful was that?
I mean, OMG. For real.
Now
I don't know what you're doing, Tim, with these conversations, but you're going to leave people like they're never going to be able to sleep.
Oh,
They're never going to be able
man,
to sleep.
that
for real.
was strong. No wonder thousands of people are coming to watch even her speak all over the world.
Correct.
This is not just, she's not just America. She is worldwide.
Right.
Elena,
Right.
wow, wow, wow.
Right.
Gloria,
Right.
boom,
Yeah.
what's on your
Yeah.
heart?
Well,
And then just so you know, our team is posting how everybody can find Elena, all things Elena, all things Gloria. So we're posting all that, okay?
yeah, because we
Gloria,
really
tell us what you're feeling.
I'm feeling that I want to say to everybody, to back up what Elena said, is that no one can take anything from you unless you choose to give it up.
Yes.
And that now's the time to do what's hard, because whatever is hard becomes easy when you do it over and over and over again. So remember that everything we're going to do now, it is going to be through creativeness. That's what's going to happen when you're in a crisis. A crisis causes one to be creative. So I'm going to tell people to refuse the fear and lavish it with love. The only thing that combats fear is love. Love of yourself, love of your skill, love of your time, love of your family, love of the situation, everything. Even loving what circumstances you don't like right now. You either going to be driven by fear or driven by love. And so what I talk to people right now is that right now, everybody's working for a certain degree of peace. And peace to me means be powerful in your people skills. How you treat other people is so critical. It is something that comes back to you over and over again. It is important that you have strong emotional management. Anything can tip you off at any point, and you have to be a master at your emotions. One of the things I tell people all the time is that you have to become smart at compartmentalizing, because when something ticks you off right now, you may not be able to deal with that right now. So you have to really understand emotions are important. And I always talk about I say PEACE, abundance. Abundance is huge right now, you guys. Abundance, even little pieces of things add up to a large piece of something for you. And so abundance in the food, and here's what I would need people to understand right now, is the abundance in the kindness.
Yes.
Kindness is required when there's a crisis. And so you're going to learn how to deal with that. Confidence, C stands for confidence. And Elena hit on that so importantly. It is the it factor. Confidence is the it factor. Right after faith and after integrity, to me, it's confidence that you can depend on. And the last E is for energy and excellence. Why not do everything in excellence? Every time you start to do something, we all have bad habits, don't we? Everybody has, don't even try to be perfect. Everybody's got a bad habit, but you can always switch it. You can never stop a bad habit, but you can always replace it with something else. And so if you go after those types of things that we're talking about here, there's absolutely no way for you to be in the same spot you are right now when this start happens after the stop. There's only up from here. And so what you have to know is what you do inspires other people. So do it. Go hard in the paint. That's what I tell people. Go hard in the paint. Right here, go hard in the paint, and your rewards will be rich.
So powerful. Gloria Mayfield Banks, Elena Cardone, thank you for tonight. We enjoyed this, right?
Yes, I loved it, Tim. Thank you so much for asking us. That's awesome.
Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for what we're all doing with each other and partnering together. And we will put all things that you guys are doing on our little Zoom there. And I really appreciate your time.
We'll get it out for you as well. Absolutely.
Bye, you guys. Bye, Gloria.
Love you guys.
I love you too.
Okay, coming up next, we've got Ricki Lake. And man, I'm a fan. I got in a situation where I was able to be in a room where we were having dinner with some people, and I'm like, whoa, that is Ricki Lake. And then later on through Jeff Sculpt, who is a really, really good designer, just a wonderful man with one golden thread, I got to get to know Ricki a little more. But I was very, very touched by an interview that she did with Robin Roberts on ABC Morning News. and just talked about her life, where she is now, and then she's doing great documentaries. Ricki, good to see you this Sunday night.
Nice to see you too, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. And I love your background there. The background's real nice.
Oh, it's my friend's art. This is a dear friend of mine, Javiera Estrada. She's one of my favorite artists. And I'm in this little apartment, this temporary apartment until I move to Malibu. And I have, I think, 6 or 7 of her pieces here.
Yes. So I text you that the other night I was just flipping through the TV and I saw this movie. Is it Miss Winterborn?
Yeah, Mrs. Winterborn. So you hadn't seen it before?
No, I had seen it around, but never, because now that I know you,
Yeah.
I took the time to watch the whole thing.
It's
That's
a
good
really,
movie.
it's a movie that I think holds up. I haven't seen it in quite some time, and Jeff has not seen that one, and I think he'd really like it. It was really magical to work side by side with Shirley MacLaine. She was incredible.
And great scenes between you two.
We got to sing together. Yeah, she was amazing. I was having a challenging time with the director, Richard Benjamin, and she would pull me aside and she's like, don't listen to him. Do it this way. She would direct me on the side. And it was, she was a joy, honestly, a gift.
Before we get into, projects you're working on, how you're feeling, what you're doing, I just want to say this. I work a lot with people who are in the city that you worked in, Hollywood, but you also worked in New York, of course. But when Ricki walks into a restaurant, people all know her. It's an amazing thing to come from, just having a regular life to being a household name and truly being a trailblazer in that field. So first question that I have for you, when you were a senior in high school, what did Ricki Lake think of becoming?
I wanted to be a star. I didn't know what that looked like, but I was very, very young, and my grandmother instilled in me, bless her, she died when I was 9 years old, but she brought me in and exposed me to Broadway and to the ballet and to the opera. And every weekend I remember spending, seeing some form of theater and music. And she told me that I could do whatever I set my heart to, my mind to. And I loved singing when I was young. So I really wanted to be some form of performer. And by high school, I was going to professional children's school. So I was surrounded by a bunch of talented musicians and artists and actors. And it was when I was 18, I was a freshman in college when I got my first break, which was Hairspray.
Yeah,
and,
so I was just going to bring up Hairspray because that's where most of us first saw the energy, the fact you could sing, everything that you did. So when you did Hairspray, was there any inkling that it was going to be as big as it turned out to be?
No, see, one thing about me, like I have good instincts with jumping into like an opportunity, but I don't have the foresight to see it beyond the experience. With Hairspray, I took that job happily, but it was really about like, oh my God, I'm going to make $20,000 this summer. I'm not going to have to go back to college next semester. It was really short-sighted. I really didn't consider that it would actually change the entire trajectory of my life, but it did. And
Wow.
Every opportunity that's come my way, I wish I could say I premeditated this talk show idea. I didn't. I was simply an actor or a talent that they met on the audition or the interview, and they hired me, and it ended up being magical. But like I think it's naivete for me. Like I'm a little bit green still, where I just live in the moment of the experience. And usually, I've been quite lucky for over 30 years that things I've done have manifested into something beyond just a cool project,
Okay, you're leading me right to the question that I wanted to talk to you about. Is that, with COVID-19, obviously we're all like quarantined, right? So we're sequestered. We've never had the world quarantine before. Okay. So in this time, a lot of people are trying to make choices, decisions, selections. But because of previous talks that we've had before, some things we get done by our decision, but some things we just discover. Mm-hmm. And as you just said, a lot of Ricki Lake is the discovery, the mm-hmm. unfolding. Mm-hmm. Okay. So tell us why it's important to be open to the discovery.
Yeah, I mean, the work I do of late is much more personal than what I did years ago. My talk show, I was cast into that, and I was really good at being a talk show host, but it wasn't my voice. It really was. I mean, I was true to myself, but I wasn't producing these topics. I wasn't involved in the day to day. I would
Yes.
come and do my work, and I was authentic, and I would listen, and I was funny, but the work I do now, the documentary work, stems from my personal experiences, something that I'm driven by or curious about. And, of late, when you and I became friends, I think it was just after I'd shaved my head, right? I
Yeah,
shaved my head on January 1st.
exactly.
And that's the interview you're referring to was Robin Roberts on Good Morning America. I had a personal kind of thing that I had to like shed from. And it was really powerful. And I'm so grateful to have had that experience prior to this COVID-19
Yes.
shift that has taken us all. I mean, it's just all of us have been brought to our knees with this. But for me, it's been like a liberating, transformative experience that I can draw strength from that.
Well, let's go there, because what I'm loving from the outside of watching your journey is that, I've always been a fan from your acting side to the way you did talk, and even the conversations that we've had in private, the way you went up to the audience, you were in the audience, you were with the people, you were really groundbreaking, doing it different than other talk show hosts had done it. But then you allowed yourself to evolve. And then you said something in the Robin Roberts interview, because I've watched it 3 times now. You talked about this was a personal secret that you had, and that was hair loss. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in the midst of you being Ricki Lake, the star, as we saw you, for many, many years had a problem with hair loss. Can we dialogue about that a little bit?
Yeah, it was off and on. I mean, it wasn't something that, I don't have alopecia, which is, when people have like an autoimmune disease and their hair sheds, their eyebrows, their eyelashes can shed. My situation was diffused hair loss. So it's genetics, it's hormonal birth control, it's weight fluctuations, it's stress. I lost my husband to death by suicide and mental illness 3 years ago. So it's like a perfect storm of like my hair would shed. And I'm someone that would, my weight, I'd go on crazy diets and I'd lose 20 pounds in a month. I had the ability to do that, but my hair would be affected by those choices, those drastic, nutritional changes that I would do. And, yeah, it was my secret. It was something I didn't talk about. I was super ashamed. And it's, as talent, I was on TV for, 12 years and in movies, and they're constantly teasing your hair and dyeing it and pulling on it and putting extensions in. I mean, it just was taking its toll. And the more you do to compensate for the lack of, the worse it is. And so for me, I didn't do it to be a poster child for this issue. That was not my intent. I just needed to be authentic. And so much of my persona is about real. My catchphrase with my old show is it's got to be real. It's got to be Ricki. And I just felt like I was faking something, and it just was getting harder and harder to manage. And it was painful. It was really hurting. So I shaved my head, and I not only shaved my head January 1st, but I let it go. Like the color, this is my natural. I mean, the lighting's not so great, but I have like this silver on the sides and this salt and pepper on the top, and it's all grown back. Like that's the other thing. It's not thin, like you could see the images in the video. I took video of the day I buzzed my own head, and you can see it was very sparse. It was very damaged. And I'm happy to report that it no longer controls me. It no longer causes tremendous pain. I have been set free. And I have to tell you, for like 25 years, every year I'd blow out the candles on my birthday cake, and I'd wish that I would be at peace with my hair. And I'm finally at peace.
This is so powerful. Let's talk about the reaction, because if you were to YouTube, go on YouTube and see the interview, even with Robin, all the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, but you showed me some of the statistics.
Oh, it's crazy.
All the
The
people
media
that
report.
reached worldwide. Talk about that.
I didn't do it to make myself relevant again. I didn't do it to tout some product that I'm using. None of it was it was really just an authentic share. And it touched a nerve, and not that I can think of, not one person I know, woman, has ever come out with this kind of issue publicly. And I think it just started a conversation that needed to be had with not only women struggling with hair loss like me, but women who are slaves to, what is conventional beauty. I think of the women, we're all quarantined and we can't get the Botox that we're used to getting. And for me, I don't do Botox, but I have my eyelashes. That the one thing I do now is I get my eyelashes done. They're gone. They're gone. This is au naturel. And, I really love the idea of what the statement I made, in January of like redefining what is beauty. Because to me, real beauty is courage. Real beauty is vulnerability. Real beauty is authenticity, and I'm 51 and I've been through a lot. I am extremely blessed. I am extremely grateful for the life I've had, the hardships, all of what I've had has brought me to where I am now, which I think is the best me yet. And at the same time, I am struggling during this quarantine phase. I'm a very social person. It's really challenging to be, and I'm not complaining really, because I have a beautiful place to live and I have my beautiful dog and my children are with me, and I have, Jeff, and I have a lot to be grateful for, but this is really a time to drop in and soul search and not unlike 9/11 for me. I think I told you that I lived through 9/11. I watched it firsthand. I lived downtown. I was doing my talk show then, and I had a 2-month-old and a 4-month-old, and I watched the second plane fly down the Hudson River and hit the building firsthand. And that was a moment of real reckoning of what going forward, if I'm to survive this trauma, which at the moment I didn't know whether I was going to survive it. It was so scary. And I thought the world was coming to an end. I thought if I live through this day, I am making some changes and, life trajectory changes that were ultimately for the best. I started focusing on documentary work, which is the work I do now. And
the business of being born is so good.
And what's great about that movie, thank you, Tim. The Business of Being Born is my first documentary with Abby Epstein. It came out 12 years ago. And what's amazing is that film is so valuable right now because women are looking right now because of COVID-19, the hospital protocols many hospitals are not allowing your partner to be with you. In some places they're forcing an epidural. And so a lot of women are looking for out of hospital birth and home birth options. And so the film really does spell out what to expect and really does alleviate a lot of fear. And that film of mine is available on my website for free for anyone to watch.
So we're going to put that up right now.
Okay.
And so guys, really, really watch this because as a team, we were dialoguing about this, about when I was telling what questions I was going to ask you. And somebody brought up, truly, there's a lot of people having their children at home right now.
Mm-hmm.
So watch that, The Business of Being Born. Just go to Ricki's website. Just 2 more questions for you, Ricki. One of the things about celebrity, a lot of people, they desire it. They want it so badly. What is it? What did it feel like when it first really happened to you?
Well, I'm kind of different in a lot of ways. Like celebrity to me is different than it was back then. Back then I was so starstruck by everyone that I met that I recognized. I mean, I was giddy when I moved to LA, I was 19 years old, and my first job, I landed in January and I was booked to work on the Academy Awards. I sang on the Academy Awards in this young Hollywood number. It's sort of this, it's famous, but not for the best reasons. It was a young Hollywood number. It was the year that Rob Lowe sang with Snow White. And so I sang with, Christian Slater and Patrick Dempsey and all these amazing people. And it was this incredible experience. And I was starstruck by everyone. But, becoming a celebrity, like wanting it and what the reality is, are 2 different things. I mean, it does give you, I guess, a lot of power in some ways, but, I sort of liken myself to be the unfamous famous person, because I certainly don't live life like I'm famous. I don't hang out with celebrities. I have friendships for 2 and 3 decades. But I certainly appreciate, having had the platform of my show in particular. Hairspray was amazing and John Waters is incredible and he gave me my start. But having my talk show and being in everyone's living room for 12 years, there's a level of intimacy and a connection and a trust factor with my audience that grew up with me. I mean, these are people that grew up with me, along with me. And so I'm so grateful, and I have such reverence for having had that platform, because it helps me with these films that I make now that are really provocative in some ways and educational. And so it's easier to present it to that audience that really does trust me still and relates to me, you know?
Yes.
So I'm grateful for every kind of facet of my career. It's been such a crazy ride, and this next chapter.
I think, like, genuinely, you have a joy. There's like a joy that's coming from you. And that's a beautiful place to be, right? The joy and the peace, right?
I try, you know, I don't know where that comes. I mean, because it's just, I guess I do. I'm a really positive person, and I have a lot of appreciation and gratitude. You know, I'm blessed.
Yes. Okay. Last question. I think 4 people are asking you this, and I'm wondering too. How do you work through pain? I mean, you've had some things in your life that most people, because, you know, I teach on setbacks to comebacks, Ricki, they would have just stayed stuck. You had every reason to just close the curtains and just be stuck. What made you want to get back up and work through the pain?
I mean, I think the fact that I had no choice but to keep going. You know, I have 2 children. I chose to bring 2 sons into the world. And, you know, I look back on 9/11 being, you know, huge traumatizing time for me. I had no choice but to, like, be the matriarch of this family and make some really tough decisions of, you know, late losing my husband. I mean, there were days I did not want to wake up. I lived with his depression and I lived with his bipolar, but I didn't know what it felt like to be so paralyzed and to be unable to get out of bed. And, you know, and I did experience some of that. And so, you know, having this dog who you can't see, who's behind the camera, the computer, but she forced me to get to the water every day. I live 2 blocks from the sand. I mean, she forced me out in the sun, and I used to, like, smile. I'd force a smile and look up at the sun and be grateful for another day, and appreciate and breathe and be present, you know, but it was not easy. It was, you know, and some days it's still not easy. I mean, this is really challenging for all of us. And it's just, we are going to get through this. I believe we'll be stronger for it. I think it's going to be so much suffering and so much pain and a lot of gifts. You know, that's one thing I've really, really found, is that through my trauma, I've found such magical gifts through it.
I love it. Ricki Lake, you are one of my favorite people. I'm not joking, man. I just
very grateful to have met you.
And I'm so proud of you too. I just love how you're evolving. And thanks for having this conversation with me.
Thank you. And our next, can I just say, my next film is going to be really exciting. It's called The Business of Birth Control.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
When are you hoping for that to come out?
Very soon. I mean, we're just finishing it now, so certainly this year, but it might be coming out in a different way than we had imagined because of this quarantine, but it's coming soon.
Okay. So we will promote that as it comes out.
Please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ricki. Appreciate your time.
Happy Easter.
Love you. Happy Easter.
Bye-bye.
Okay. The Ricki Lake. Wasn't that a great conversation? So many takeaways about getting back up, setback, but getting back up again, going through pain. Next up, man, so excited. Bring him on the screen. Scott Budnick, a man that is getting things done. To do my research, I went and watched some interviews that he had done with some other people. And Scott, I'm loving what you're doing, loving what you're up to. And thank you for having this conversation with me on this Sunday night.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, Tim. Great to see you, man.
Okay, so here's what I want to do. Let's go straight to business, okay?
Let's do it.
And one of the things that's going on is, obviously, you know, producer of many things that we talked about before you came on, The Hangover, everything that you guys did with all those films, being a part of this great film, Just Mercy, your own company, production company, everything that you're doing. But real big in your heart is what you're doing with prison reform, Anti-Recidivism Coalition, also known as ARC. All right. Tell us what's on your heart about COVID-19 and how it's affecting our prisons.
Well, Tim, I appreciate you asking that, brother. I came in this accidentally in the film business. We were doing a movie called Old School. I went into a juvenile hall to be a guest speaker in a creative writing program and sat with 14, 15, 16-year-olds facing life in prison. And the first kid next to me, I asked him, how was his week? And he said it was a bad week. He just got sentenced to 300 years to life in prison. And his name was David. He was 15 years old. He was a tiny little kid. I asked him what happened, and he said, I stood next to my friend that shot the victim in the rear end. The victim was in and out of the hospital in 3 hours, and I'm going to prison for 300 years to life. And I just realized in that moment that if that was my child, they would not be going to prison for standing next to someone that shot someone in the butt. They'd be out on bail. And immediately I got in and just started working with young people who had made tremendous mistakes, but who had been victimized so much in life leading up to that decision. And so over the last 2 decades that I've been doing that work, I've seen these young men go into prisons, go into juvenile halls, get out, go into colleges and universities, graduate. And so when COVID hit, these aren't just kind of out of sight, out of mind people to me. These were my kids. These were my students, right? These were hundreds, if not thousands of people that were in prison, earning college degrees, radically transforming their life, being of service to others, mentoring youth. And we know when a disease hits, especially in a confined environment like that, where you have staff members who are coming in and out every day, hundreds of thousands of staff members coming in and out every day, where so many of the carriers of the disease are asymptomatic. And at first, the system was just kind of going on as normal. Now, they have basically locked down the majority of the system. But now you have a bunch of folks, there have been dozens of cases. You have folks locked down in their cell, not knowing what's happening with their families. Visits have been canceled. So they can't see their mothers. They don't really know what's going on. They do have collect calls, so they let out of the cell for collect calls. But there's just a huge fear of worry. And I have a huge fear of worry because when I've seen the flu start to go live in there, it just ravages the entire place. And we have thousands, we have 130,000 people incarcerated in California, 2.5 million in the country. And so many are elderly, infirm, without the right health care there to save their lives.
Okay, so in the midst of that, life called you, because we're all called to something. So everybody has a calling, as you know, Scott. Our calling is specific, it's unique, and it's unpredictable. And little did you know that you would spend so many years getting so involved in prison reform that it's really taken up most of your time in your life. Tell me one story of setback to comeback, because that's what people need to know, that people really are getting changed. You are educating people through ARC. It's a privilege to be part of that board, as I am. But give me one story of setback to comeback.
Yeah, one of the first kids I ever met in the juvenile hall was an incredible kid named David Campos. He was 14 years old and ultimately got a 14-year prison sentence. And I had to kind of go along kind of with him on this journey through the prison system, and watched him start off at Pelican Bay State Prison, one of the most violent prisons in California, and then work his way down through education. David graduated from a high school in there. He graduated from college. And these are prison yards. They're just unrelenting and unforgiving, right? This is not where the simplest place to make transformation, but David did it. And he was resolute in that. And he ultimately, 2 years ago, was released from prison, now in his late 20s, at 14 years old going in, now coming out at 25, 26 years old. And David immediately just hit the ground running, started going to West LA College to study film production. And Universal Studios was starting an internship program, and we're looking for formerly incarcerated folks to work with them. David was one of the 3 people that got hired at Universal Studios.
Amazing.
And actually started working in the executive area with the CEO of Universal, Jeff Shell, who took a real kind of mentorship role and even would call David into his office and just hear his story, talk to him, mentor him, etc. When we were finishing Just Mercy, obviously a film about criminal justice reform where Michael B. Jordan is playing one of my heroes, Brian Stevenson, who's representing Jamie Foxx that's on death row. Our director, when we finished the film, said, "Hey, Scott, I need to hire an assistant in the editing room." And he ended up hiring David full-time as the assistant to the filmmaker of Just Mercy. And the greatest thing happened afterwards. David worked so hard, ran circles around everybody,
Wow.
brought such gratitude to this that Destin, our director, calls me and said, "Hey, Scott, I just got the next Marvel film. I'm directing the first Asian superhero in the Marvel universe, and I'm going to Australia and to China, and I want to bring David. Can you help him get off parole so I can bring him out of the country for his first time to Australia and to China?" And so David has been working on the Marvel movie in Australia and just had to come home because of COVID. But if that's not the quintessential story, and we have, you know, Tim, because you're on the board, we have hundreds, if not thousands of those stories.
Hundreds. You know, there's a proverb that says, "Unrelenting disappointment can leave you heart sick, but a sudden good break can turn your life around."
Yes.
And truly, Scott, you're helping people to get a break, and they're getting a break, but a breakthrough. And if one person breaks through, they can bring their whole family through. And so that's what we're doing, man. We're reversing curses. So I want to take about 5 minutes and let's raise some money for ARC, for ARC. You know, our last thing that we did last Sunday night, Scott, we had about 200,000 people view this. And
wow.
So it's massive of how many people are going to watch this, watching this now. Email lists, people are sending out to their email lists all over the world. So I want to raise money for ARC. We are a nonprofit organization. And so we're going to put all the information on how they can give.
Wonderful.
But give us 2 things that ARC is doing that people's hard-earned money will go towards in prison reform.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first off, just making sure when people come home from prison, that they have all the resources available to have a great life, never be a drain on the system, but quite the opposite, become taxpayers, raise their kids so their kids never see the inside of a prison. And so everything that we do, I started and ran ARC, but now an incredible man named Sam Lewis, who did 24 years in prison himself and started off at the bottom of our organization, is now the executive director. So supporting Sam's leadership, Sam's incredible leadership. But we do everything from when someone comes home, we have housing programs, we have career programs, therapy, mentorship. All it takes, as we've seen, is one person in someone's life that cares about them, that's consistent, that brings love, that brings advice to just turn someone's life completely around. And so that type of mentorship, the one thing I'm really excited about as it relates to our services is not looking at just getting someone a job, but how do you transition that into a career, right? A minimum wage is not going to give someone the ability to really raise a family and move out of a neighborhood that is consumed by poverty, right? And so what we've done by sending hundreds, if not thousands of our members into colleges and universities, we have dozens, if not hundreds of our members that are in the film and television unions working, making $45, $48 an hour.
Yes.
We started the first firefighting program for the wildfires in California with folks that are formerly incarcerated in California. And we have the largest construction union training program in California, where we place people into the construction unions. And we have hundreds of our members building the Rams Stadium, building the train line, building the new rental car center at LAX. So watching lives change, their children's lives change because of these opportunities. And I'd say the one other thing, Tim, other than all these services, is our ability to have our members who are all formerly incarcerated lead policy change in our state capital in Sacramento, in Washington, D.C., and other states' capitals. One quick story, our members who are all formerly incarcerated, who have changed their lives and redeemed themselves, went to Sacramento to fight the fact that we in California would sentence children to die in prison. We're the only country in the world, Tim, that would sentence a child to life without parole, a death sentence in prison. We spend $230,000 a year incarcerating a child, 5 times what it would cost sending them to Harvard, and 7 out of 10 aren't given the skills and come
Amazing.
right back to prison, right? What a bad return on investment.
Yes.
And so we looked at the fact that we were sending kids to die in prison, and instead of sending them to die in prison, give them the skills they need to radically transform their lives.
Loving
And so
this.
we went up and passed a bill that ultimately affected, a series of bills that ultimately affected 24,000 young people in California that were sentenced to die in prison. I told you about David, who had a 300-year to life sentence. When we passed this bill, I went to talk to David and I got to look him in the eye and say, your sentence is now reduced to 25 years to life. And so his
Yes.
sentence went from 300 to life to 25 to life because of the work that our members did. But the most incredible part is because David had transformed his life, because he was in college, because he was doing the work on his character, the governor, Jerry Brown, before he left office, commuted David's sentence, and now David goes to the parole board this year. So it's just been beautiful seeing this transformation. The recidivism rate in California for young people is 70%, and our recidivism rate at ARC is under 10%. And it's the testimony of the work that our members are doing to completely transform their lives.
So here's what I want to say to people. You know, some of you will give out of your surplus, some out of your sacrifice. Scott's been a sacrifice person, you know, putting his career at many times on the side, even though he was doing projects still and now doing many more projects, but all the hours and time that he's put in, but look at all the changes that have come. And Scott, I tell you, for what I've done, I would do it all over again. 35 years on the road, third world nations, lifting up young people, stirring them up in 75 countries of the world. I'd do it again. I would do it again.
It's the most fulfilling thing. Like I tell people, when I left the film business and took a 90% pay cut to start ARC, it was the most fulfilling 5 years of my life. I was so much happier making so much less, and every day having these stories. I mean, yesterday, if you look at my Instagram, Scott Budnick 1, you will watch like Louis, who I've known in prison forever, take his first steps out after 25 years in prison, and literally kiss the ground on Good Friday. I mean, on Good Friday, after 25 years, he takes his first steps. And it's these sort of things, like nothing, not seeing Louis succeed, seeing Marco Conchola, who just got out last week, succeed, seeing our ARC members succeed, nothing. You know this, Tim, you do this every day of your life, and you're on our board. It's just the most beautiful thing.
Nothing like it. Okay, so let me just reach out to you guys, because so many watching, you own businesses, and maybe your business is challenged, but I'm telling you, there's something about what you make happen for someone else, life will bring it back to you. Whether you want to call it karma or reaping what you sow, you will reap what you sow. So if all of us did something and gave towards ARC, all the information is right there, and it's going to continue to be there. The website, ways to give. I want to challenge you to give. That's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's son, that's somebody that at one point had so much promise, and they're looking for hope, they're looking for the break. Why don't you become the break?
And by the way, Tim,
break in somebody else's life.
And what a great day to give that message on the day of redemption, right? I mean, it is the exact day to be talking about this.
Beautiful. The day of redemption, and Scott, as you know, the day of resurrection. So help us at ARC resurrect people's lives. And Scott, they're gonna move. They're gonna do it. And seriously, guys, some of you have amazing businesses. Be a giver. You're gonna change somebody's daughter, change somebody's son. Let somebody see the light. Nelson Mandela was incarcerated for over 25 years, and look what he did. Give somebody a chance. Scott, closing words, anything you feel on your heart.
I'm honored to be here with you, Tim. You've always inspired me. I think I'm just going to tell one last story based on what you just said to the business leaders that are tuning in today. In that same first class that I met David, I met a young man named Adam, who was the topic in the writing class was forgiveness. And I remember him holding the paper up and his hands were shaking and asking if his mom would ever forgive him. And he was about to go off to prison. He was a tiny, tiny kid. I was so worried about what was going to happen to him. He had a great heart, great spirit. And he said, Scott, when I get out, will you please help me? I do not know what to do. Can you please help me when I get out? And it turns out he got out when we were about to start production on The Hangover. And I said to Adam, he called me, he said, Scott, I really need a job. I said, guess what? Next week, we're starting production on The Hangover. I need you there at 6 a.m. to be ready to start shooting at 7. You have an internship, $12 an hour. Come and impress. Adam showed up at 3:30 in the morning. He beat every producer to the set. He ran circles around everybody, came in with an attitude of gratitude because no one handed him this job. He had to earn it. And every day was so grateful, was so thankful, had such a good attitude, and was so happy that someone took a risk on him after an experience of 6 years in prison. At the end of it, our prop master said, this is one of the greatest guys I've ever hired. I'm bringing him on to my next movie. Adam then got into the union, went from $12 an hour to $48 an hour, time and a half after 8, double time after 12. He then got his 4 brothers into the union, and now they've lifted their whole family, their parents out of poverty, and bought them a house. And so it is not, you're not doing a favor by hiring someone. You are radically changing their life. And for that, they are going to come with so much harder work ethic. They're going to come with so much more gratitude. And it will be one of the most fulfilling things that you've done in your life.
Scott Budnick, thanks for spending a little Sunday night with me. We're going to continue to dialogue and do things together. I'm excited about possible projects with you. And people are going to give. So respond. You heard what Scott and I are talking about. We're bringing change. And keep on following Scott. We're putting all his information. He's got new projects, new movies, new things. Life is good, huh, Scott?
Love you, brother Tim. God bless you, man.
Love you. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
That's Scott Budnick. You know, there's more to life than making amazing movies. And, you know, you walk around with Scott in Beverly Hills, and what an influence that he is. I was talking to somebody the other day. He is one of the most influential men in the space, in entertainment right now. It was amazing that he gave us this much time. Great conversations with Gloria Mayfield Banks, Elena Cardone, also with Ricki Lake. Thank you, Ricki, for what you brought tonight, and also with Scott Budnick. I want to tell you about a couple things that I'm very excited about. My book, Come Back and Beyond, and this is how to turn your setbacks into comebacks. We're making this available tonight at a very easy price at $9.99. $9.99. Because if I was to ask you, how many of you are going through a setback and you need a comeback, that would be a lot of you. But how many of you know somebody that's in a setback and need a comeback? So for $9.99, would you please order this book? And we will email it to you tomorrow. It's an ebook. We're not going to send you this form. Ebook, $9.99. We will send it to you tomorrow morning. Can you just take a minute and order that right now? $9.99. Please sponsor somebody's comeback. We will use this money to continue to do this program that we're doing, okay? Also, I'm very excited about another thing that we're doing, and that is called the World Shakers Network. So what is that, Tim Storey? That is a group that's going to meet tomorrow night. And it's a more intimate conversation with me. Many times I'm on Zoom calls with as high as 10,000 people at one time. But you will break into groups of about 50, sometimes 100. The World Shakers Network. I have a curriculum of over 700 pages of how to make impact in your world, how to make impact in your world. And so it is a group of world shakers like yourself. If you think you're a world shaker, which I think you are, I want you to join the World Shakers Network. We've made it very affordable. It is only $47 a month. Come on, people. for $47 a month. All right. So you meet with me every single week like this. It's me live. It's not somebody else. And you meet other world shakers. We give you a chance to talk back, communicate, and also you get daily affirmations, people. $47 a month. Vote yes. If you have a son or a daughter that needs to get picked up, try to get them involved. World Shakers Network. First one tomorrow night. And if you sign up right now or in the morning, we'll try to get you in those groups. And believe me, I'm staying super, super busy. I start very early and then very late doing these, but it's worth it. World Shakers Network, $47 a month, or you can pay all of it at one time. All the information is right there. And we give you several things for absolutely free. I'm excited about the mask that I'm wearing. It says World Shaker on it. And my good friend Eli James, he is a master in design. He does sweatshirts, he does t-shirts, he does apparel. He's been doing it for a long time. Ghost Circus. And we have the new World Shakers mask, because we have to wear the mask. And so the monies that we make from the mask, my portion is all going to charity. All going to charity to lift people up and help people up. And I'm using this money from the mask to go towards ARC prison reform, okay? So this is about us staying safe, and this is about us changing lives. All right, I just got this today, which I think is pretty cool. So this is also came from my friend Eli James, and he's got something here. It is the World Shaker sweatshirt. It's a hoodie. See the hood? See how cool that is? And on the side, it says, no panic, no panic. So in the midst of what's going on, a lot of people have panic. You can get this hoodie for men and women, no panic, no panic. Then it says World Shaker, because that's what you are, a world shaker. And my proceeds, once again, are going towards charity and helping people to get lifted up. So the proceeds for that is going to go towards this program that we are doing. Now, I have about 4 minutes left, and I want to just say this. I want to thank the sponsors. We have sponsors that rose up and they give to make this happen so we can take out ads. We are strengthening our equipment. We're doing all kinds of changes. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of our sponsors. We have Keep Me Safe with Kelly Bonu and Rebecca Black, friends of mine. Keep Me Safe. It is a really, really great program that they're doing. Our mission is to keep your family safe in products to lower the chemical burden brought into your home. We believe if you have a clean home filled with products that do no harm, the compounding effects of having less chemical exposures will make a huge difference. Okay? So keepmesafeworldwide.com. Ladies, thank you for being investors and helping us to have this program tonight. Also, the Congregation Church, which I am the lead pastor, they have helped sponsor what we're doing. Congregationchurch.com. We have about 17,000 people watching every one of my sermons on Sunday morning. Thank you, Congregation Church, and all the members there for helping to make this happen. Also, American Rehab Campuses. This is for anybody that's having challenges in the area of recovery. American Rehab Campuses, thank you, Mike Ziprich, and everything that you guys are doing in Tucson, Arizona. Thank you for helping to sponsor and make this happen. Also like to thank my good friend, Spencer Chambers. He has chambers911.com. It is a great organization. Spencer Chambers helping in the area of changing your life in many, many areas. So we're going to have all his information. Spencer's a personal friend. Thank you for doing that. All Fundy Capital, business loans, and many, many amazing things that they do in the area of loans and making the right decisions. Thank you, Katana, for helping bring them to the table. And also NHL, National Hair Loss, Carly Klein, Hair Loss Treatments. Thank you for taking the time to give, Carly Klein, and to help this program happen. So NHL, National Hair Loss. So I'd like to end right on time tonight, and we did it. What an amazing, amazing time conversation. We'll be at it again next Sunday, 6 p.m. Our guest list, all I got to say is holy schmoly. The people are coming out. The guest list is so strong, we're not going to tell you who's on until probably Wednesday. But keep spreading the light. Spread the word. Let people know about these great conversations that we're having, okay? So thank you for share, because you care. And happy Easter. He is risen. And no matter what you're going through, God can turn it around. You may not be what you want to be, but thank God you're not what you used to be. God bless you and good night.